Hello everyone, I'm Chris. I run Horse Racing 999. I've been involved in horse racing for over 40 years, and I wanted to share this video to you all to tell you a bit about who I am, where my interest in the sport comes from, and what this channel is all about. A bit later on I'll tell you about the superstition that my dad had when I was growing up, when I was a child, and one that worked more than you might think it did. My interest in horse racing goes back to, as I say, when I was a child with my dad every Saturday, going down the town, going in the pub. He'd have a pint of beer and look at the racing. I obviously didn't have any beer, but I just had a drink called Zing mainly. Anyway, we'd go down the pub and he'd study the racing, the ITV7, which funnily enough is still going on now, more or less in its original format, not quite, but near enough. He always used to back number 8 in handicaps, which, as I said earlier on, did come up. They won more often than not than they didn't. And even if they didn't win, they would get in a place. But I still do that sometimes, but I'm a bit more analytical than he was, let's say. The racing basically stuck with me and into adulthood and shaped the way I sort of look at the sport now. What I love about it is the way that it's a challenge, a bit like solving a crossword puzzle, particularly with the place pot, in fact, because you want all the interlocking things to come together and finish the crossword puzzle or win the place pot. I also, talking about crossword puzzles, I do like doing cryptic crossword puzzles, as my dad did. That's probably rubbed off on me as well. I taught myself to do them. Anyway, back to the racing. Takes a bit of preparation. The day before the meeting, I would spend looking at it, looking at the Racing Post website and the Timeform website. With regard to handicaps, for instance, whether the horse has gone up or down in the handicap, and that sort of thing. So it's a methodical, logical process, I hope. I don't spend a lot of money, 10p accumulators, that kind of thing, and £1 on the place pot usually. I maybe would spend £10 one day, £20 another day, depends if I win or lose, that sort of thing. But I don't gamble heavily, and that's not what this channel is about. As I said before, I'm not going to give you any tips. I want you to make your own tips. But I do recognise that most people who go racing socially, whether it's a work do or a night out on a celebration, will normally have a small flutter. It's part of the day, but I don't want to guide you towards any particular horses. I want you to guide yourself, basically, having looked at the card and hopefully learnt from what I'm telling you. With regard to going races, there are some race courses that I like and some that I don't. I think it's a bit, when you go racing, you want to be able to see the races, okay? So, because otherwise you could just sit at home and watch it. So places like Lingfield, Fontwell, Kempton and Ayr, you can see the whole track from the stands, which is what you want to be able to do. And whilst Goodwood has, for instance, good quality racing, you can't see the start of any of the races except for one. I won't go into that now because it's an anomaly. But the Goodwood races, you can't see the start of the race from anywhere. So you have to watch it on the TV, and as I say, you can do that at home. But you do get good quality races there. And also at Brighton, you can't see the start of any of the races at Brighton for similar reasons. And various tracks have got various quirks. Like, for instance, Newcastle, they don't run long distance races after sunset because they've only got floodlights on the straight track. So they're not allowed to do that. And Bath, for instance, is not allowed to water because it hasn't got a license, even though it's a spa town, there's no license. And Windsor has recently come back online with jumping, and that's got its own oddities as well. Thinking back to any sort of highlight memories, let's say, I was at Newmarket the day that Frankel debuted. And whilst you don't know what's going to happen, he did look like a special horse then, and he's since gone on and won umpteen races and is now in stud. There are some things that frustrate me about racing. We won't go into all of them, but for instance, I don't like paying more money than I have to, essentially, as nobody else does for anything. But I do object to paying money to go into a race course to watch, or to at least to have the added cost of whatever it is, some band I've never heard of, afterwards. And they're expecting me to pay to go in and watch a band that I'm not going to watch. I just want to go for the racing. And I mean, for instance, I don't go racing to drink all the time. I go for the racing. And whilst I would mainly be usually driving, that would be a reason to not drink anyway. But if I wasn't driving, I do have the odd beer, but I don't go for the beer. I go for the racing. But overall, I would say that they are doing the right thing by trying to encourage people to go racing. But me as a seasoned race goer, I don't want to pay for the privilege of somebody else to go racing and watch a band afterwards. So there needs to be, in my opinion, a tweak to that somehow. I also avoid race meetings with races that have 4 runners or less, because A, it's not worth going really, because you're not getting full value for money, and B, if you're going to do the place pot, you've got to get the winner, and you've got to get the winner anyway, because there's no each way betting on those races. I'll explain more about place pots in a future video. I know I've touched on it before in other ones. So if you want to know more about that, make sure you subscribe and you can see that. Overall, I do love the sport, and I don't buy into the idea that it's corrupt. There have been relatively high-profile cases where jockeys that have tried to stop horses have got found out and have been banned. And in fact, there's one particular jockey, Greg Fairley, who's recently come back after a lengthy ban of about 13 years, and he's back riding now. In fact, he's riding today, in fact. Every winner of every horse race is dope tested, along with a randomly selected other horse. So you can be pretty sure that there isn't any doping going on. You know, you'd be 99% sure that there is no doping going on. You might wonder why I started this channel. I would consider that I am officially retired, and I've got time to put into this and share the passion that I've got with everyone that I've learned over the last 40 odd years. I've built up a lot of knowledge of horse racing, horse types, trainers, jockeys, betting, etc., etc. And I would say that there is a gap for people who just want to know, let's call it the facts, and want to know what it is they're going to be looking for when they go racing. As you can probably tell, this internet malarkey is all a bit of a it's all a bit new to me, this YouTube stuff, so that's why it's not professional, let's say. We've been going about 10, 11, 12 days now, and it's had around 2,000 views on my channel. I would say that's relatively good. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what viral means either, but maybe I might go viral. There does seem to be an appetite for what I'm hopefully producing, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to view these videos so far. As my channel has a strong educational focus, I'll be putting together a series of videos as we go along. The first one of which will be talking about the different bet types available, from a single bet on a single horse to accumulators. And I'll be explaining what accumulators are, if you don't know. But hopefully it will be as straightforward as possible. I'm not one who's going to waffle. I'm just going to give you the facts. Okay. As I say, I won't be giving you any tips. I want you to be your own tipster. And at the end of the series, there'll be a downloadable PDF available for you to watch. If you want to follow the series, don't forget to subscribe as below. Okay. I'm hoping that this series will essentially help everyone understand the basics of horse racing, whether they're sitting at home, looking at it on the TV, or going as part of a work do, or just with some friends. Anyway, that's the plan. I'll just sort of almost finish by saying about what I would say are my values, as they're important and to me, and set the tone for the channel. Okay, so respect for the sport and the people in it. Hopefully be giving you some clarity, education, no hype, and no, I won't be pushing gambling or as I say, or giving tips. And I only want you really to stake small, small tips, small stakes, if at all. And I hope you trust what I'm saying, because I've built up experience over the last few years. I'm not trying to sell you anything or promise you anything, just to explain things as clearly as possible. And I'm pleased to share with you the nominated charity for my channel will be the Injured Jockeys Fund. And most jockeys who are injured do return to the sport, but there's one or two who don't recover at all, such as Graham Lee, for instance. He's a Grand National winning jockey, went to the flat, he's now in a wheelchair. To other people, such as a flat jockey whose name I can't remember at the moment, but he was injured on the ice in Switzerland, I think it was, and he's now back as a pundit on racing TV. The Injured Jockeys Fund has various buildings that they try and rehabilitate. George Baker was the jockey I was trying to think of. They've got various buildings that they try and rehabilitate jockeys in, with various pieces of equipment, which obviously cost a lot of money. Now, I just finished by saying racing isn't the only thing that I enjoy. I like a couple of other things outside the sport, snooker being one of them, and badminton. Snooker being a game of precision, and badminton being very active, which keeps me active now I'm retired. I have been asked about the bright shirts that I wear whilst filming. They're nothing to do with racing, I just like them. They're comfortable and cheerful, and I wear these on my favourite sort of holiday, which is a cruise. That's about it really. Join me on the next video.